investors a lot of times can actually hurt more than help. So I think making sure that you have that team that's actually on board with the vision of what you're building, where you want to get in 5 and 10 years is critical. Otherwise, you could be actually slowing down or you look for funding and you're actually trying to speed up and could get the opposite result.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Built Not Born, the startup go-to-market podcast by Venture Guides. I'm Sage Nye, and around here, we believe that great companies are built, not born, one smart decision at a time. Each week, we take you through real conversations with founders, investors, and go-to-market experts on what it really takes to land customers and scale your startup. Now, let's get to work. Welcome to Built Not Born, the podcast where we dive into the real stories behind startup execution, venture capital, and go-to-market strategy. I'm Sage Nye, venture partner at Venture Guides. And today, we're joined by Andrios Robert, founder and CEO of Hoop.dev, a venture born from his passion for making infrastructure access both secure and frictionless for engineering teams. At Hoop.dev, Andrios is solving the messy trade-offs between security, compliance, and developer productivity. By building what they describe as an access gateway for databases and servers, Hoop.dev lets teams eliminate burdensome VPNs, shared credentials, or break glass access tickets, while still enforcing guardrails and keeping detailed auditable logs. Andrios built Hoop.dev based on his own experiences as an early employee at a scaling software business, which ended up being purchased for $1 billion. He brings a lot of experience in scaling businesses, as well as building a business of his own, and we are so excited to talk to him today. Andrios, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we'd love to start with some context for our listeners, especially because your story is so exciting. Can you share a little bit of your background with the audience?
Yeah, so I'm an engineer from background. Spent roughly 10 years working mostly in the financial services sector. Started with some larger enterprise banks and then moved to smaller teams after a while. So that's how I joined Pismo and had some very exciting times with the smaller orgs as well.
Why did you start Hoop.dev?
So I always wanted to found a company. I always wanted to build something. So back when I was working with these large banks, probably 10 years ago, I was already looking for problems I love to create and build. So I was already looking to some problems that I could solve. And then I gradually progressed towards founding a company. And that meant getting experience with the problems and then switching to a smaller startup where I could learn what it means to build a company and learn from what not to do. Mm-hmm. And then after being for a while in that early stage environment, I thought, okay, now I'm ready to go. And also I have a solid experience with problems that could be solved. And that's my path at least.
So speaking of problems that could be solved, you have the rare experience of being at a very successful company from the early days. And so what were some of the major challenges you saw in Pismo?
I would say it changed over time. So I joined very early, one of the first few engineers. And then at a startup, at seed stage, went through Series A, Series B, and the challenges would change every 6 months. And that's really what got me really excited. That's the place where I stayed the most time working at because of that constant change. Scaling the teams is one of the biggest challenges because when you're a very small team, you move so fast and then you start growing and adding people and there's communication overhead and cultural fits that need to stay in place. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges for sure.
You've talked a little bit in the past about one of the challenges that you ran into was a security one where you ended up having to copy and paste code. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Exactly. So yeah, as one of the first engineers, and I saw that not just with my experience, but I would run some meetups and talk to industry peers and it was very similar where you are a more senior person at the company. And when you don't have the proper guardrails and security workflows in place, what ends up happening is manual work that falls under the most experienced folks. And it's pretty practical, right? You start growing the team. And when you have this sort of infrastructure access that's very dangerous, you can't just let everyone have that. Particularly like new folks that join, they don't have all the context. If like infrastructure is pretty complex, so it takes a while to get used to the infrastructure. And then you tend to concentrate the access with these more senior folks. But then everyone needs to use that. And then what ends up happening is that bottleneck where everyone is asking whoever has access to do things for them. So that's where I was. And it was a very manual process. I would get a lot of Slack requests saying, hey, Andrios, can you run this operation in the database, or can you change this on a specific server? And that was a very manual process. And what bothered me the most was not like, of course, doing manual things is not great, as you have many other very exciting things to do, but how the missed opportunities, right? I could be doing way more strategic work that we needed, but I would spend hours and like hours of our team to doing it manual, like copy and paste into production.
I remember the first time we talked about this, I was asking, what people in that role are like. And you just looked to me and you go, they're very sad people.
Yeah. It's not fun. It's not funny. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so you're now starting your own business and running your own business. What are some of the biggest challenges you've run into so far?
There are many challenges. It's hard to pick if some of the biggest. First, I think it's pretty fun. Like I don't see. I think the challenges that we have, I always enjoy working on them. But I'm an engineer from background, so go-to-market in general is a whole like topic that I had to learn on the job, and I'm still learning. So I would say all the functions inside go-to-market, to me at least, has been the biggest challenges to figure out.
I want to spend some time on that because while it was challenging, you were also the only salesperson for a long time and successfully closed very impressive customers and logos. But now, as you have a team and you're trying to teach the team about everything that's already in your head, we'd love to be able to hear some of the experiences that you've been imparting on your team. What's it like building a team and trying to teach them?
Yeah, it's fun. I really like the experience, and again, like it's something that I enjoy a lot is learning new functions, and I think building the team is another thing that you need to be really good at and need to learn. It's another function that you have to work on, and I think it's also an exchange. So we basically bring on people that also have a lot of experiences that I don't have. So there is a lot of exchange. So there is a lot of context about the product that I need to teach the team and drive us in the direction that we have, like for the strategy, long-term vision. But I'm learning a lot too. So I think it's a biggest exchange.
One thing we talk about a lot at Venture Guides is a well-informed team is always better than an individual because you can help each other learn and you all bring different perspectives and stuff. So it sounds like you're experiencing that.
Yeah, 100%. And this is something that we always look for when we are hiring and in our culture. Like when we're hiring, it's about like curiosity. You want to like understand the why of things. And then among the team is ask questions. If you don't understand something, it's not simple enough. So you shouldn't be in a meeting or somewhere where you don't understand. So always be asking and having that culture of collaboration is one of the things that we really push for.
I'd love to hear about some of the earlier days and earlier experiences. Particularly when we think about customers, what was it like to sign up your first big customer? And did that feel different than previous accounts?
Yeah, I think the first customer was the biggest, like, in terms of emotions.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so that's actually an interesting story. So I left my job to work full time on the company, and I was basically bootstrapping at this point. So I had this like savings that I could run for 3 months, and I was like, I need to figure something out, or I would have to go back and work. And then I actually started looking for jobs. I would like give up on it. And I went through like many iterations through this period, like probably 3 or 4 variations of a solution. I spoke to hundreds of people trying to do product discovery, but I didn't manage to get like any revenue or anything that was solving a real problem. So I started looking for jobs, and the market was pretty tough. I'm like, oh, this is not good, not looking good as I started to apply. But I was applying for jobs and still trying to make it work. So that's when I decided to pivot like a couple of weeks before. There was no interface, nothing. It was just a CLI and very scrappy version. And then I got a company that I spoke with, and they're like, yeah, that solves a real problem for us. So I would love to use it. And so that became our first customer. And with that, having that customer actually was what allowed us to get into an accelerator that required like you had something to show. Mm-hmm. And I think that one thing that I had to show actually got us in, and we got some funding, and I could keep building it and not going back to work. So I think that one customer was the really like big.
And what an amazing experience it's been since.
Yeah, it's been great.
You and the team have been focused on defining your ICP very closely and thinking about who and what to target. What has that experience been like?
It's a big challenge because it's not a super predictable problem. If you look at our customer base, so you have one group of users, a group of buyers, you have a different group of installation, the folks that actually run the POCs, and then the value of the product is also spread across organizations. So it's a big problem, but I think we're getting there.
Mm-hmm. And when you say predictable problem, is that trying to identify who at the organization is faced with it, or who to call, or both?
Yeah, I think who to call, because where you start influences a lot of the project. So there were instances where we started too low and we hit a pain point there, but then that team didn't have enough like influence in the organization to move the project along and actually complete it. Whereas if we start higher in the organization, many times they can't really make the project a priority right now because maybe they're too far from the day-to-day and they can't feel that pain so acutely that they need to act on it right now. So I think it's the unpredictability is really like, how can you get those signs across these thousands of conversations that we had at this point with customers and make that into a predictable model that we can improve on.
Such an interesting problem. The sad people that you described at the beginning feel the pain, want to be working on more interesting things, but don't have the budget and the buying power. And so you sort of have to build the empathy across the organization or figure out what the message is higher up to be able to capture that budget.
Exactly. And typically it's a very interesting problem because even though like you see a lot of the pain being felt on more of a infrastructure DevOps teams, the root cause of the problem is solving a security problem, right? If these developers can't access an infrastructure because they're trying to protect it, so it's not really a DevOps like strategic initiative. It's a security thing, but then it falls under DevOps.
On a slightly different note, you now have a team in Boston, a go-to-market team in Boston. What has that experience been like for you?
It's been great. Going back into the office, it's a very different energy. So right now the team is half in person with the Google market here and our product team being remote. And it feels great to be in an office with the team. Like the energy, the momentum that you can get is the pace of information exchange is incredible. So it's been great. And it's definitely challenging to connect. So we have a lot of sessions with everyone in it. So there needs to be some logistics to work on, but I think we're doing great.
That's awesome. Which raises another question of, I do think teams today are even more spread apart than they've been in the past, and trying to maintain that culture of engaging each other and collaborating with each other can be really hard. Do you have any strategies that you recommend?
Yeah, I think it goes back like before you have the team, hiring folks that are, again, curious, but also willing to help others and really collaborate. And I think that's a big part of it, because once you have the people with the right alignment, things tend to happen faster. And then it's about like incentivizing, setting up like shared sessions or team sessions. And I'm always like emphasizing that we should be always, again, if you're curious, you're going to ask a lot of questions. Like, that's what we want. And you're going to have people like, hey, I don't understand this. Why is this like this? And this is what starts typically conversations where a lot of context will be exchanged without too much planning, right?
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, it sounds like you've built a great team so far and hopefully a lot more to build. A slightly different perspective on team is also investors. And so we have two questions for you that we've heard from many other people who have asked before, and I'd love to get your perspective on. The first one is, when you think about raising money and term sheets, is the best one always the highest price, or are there other qualities that you look for in the people that you're going to be partnering with?
There are totally other qualities, and I think that investors typically, and I hear a lot of stories, right? I have a lot of founder friends. I think that investors a lot of times can actually hurt more than help. And so, yeah, I think making sure that you have that team that's actually on board with the vision of what you're building, where you want to get in 5 and 10 years is critical. Otherwise, you could be actually slowing down, or you look for funding and you're actually trying to speed up and could get the opposite result.
And when you think about the characteristics of people that are going to be on the same page and agree with your vision and all that, what do you look for in those people you're going to partner with?
I think collaboration is a big thing. So really like trusting the vision that of the existing vision of the company, and also collaborating with data, like with frameworks, with field experience. Like if you're bringing something to the table for us to discuss, like what is the data that's backing it? What is it coming from? Is it just an idea from your head, or you're actually seeing that work somewhere else? So I think this is the type of thing that I would look for, and I look for when I'm we're fundraising, is like, okay, is this something that will add to our strategy and will help us besides the money.
Fantastic. All right. Before we wrap, I have a couple reflective questions for you to give founders something to think about and learn from your journey. The first one is, if you could start Hoop all over again, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
I would spend more time talking to customers in the beginning. I thought I knew that, but I definitely built, particularly in the early days. It's so easy as an engineer to keep building things and it feels great. But then like you won't have people to use it. So yeah, spending more time with customers.
What's a leadership lesson that you wish more founders understood as they grow their business?
Something that you hear everywhere is the idea of hiring someone to solve a problem and then you forget about this problem. And in a startup, that's never going to happen. So you need to actually go in and lead the change, lead the drive the change. And then, of course, you need team to scale things. But I think the biggest is like, and I knew this from the beginning, but I still somewhat made that mistake a couple times. I think way less than what I see, because I really try to avoid repeating mistakes or things that aren't pretty well established. You need to drive, you need to lead any, like the biggest problems in particular. Like there's nobody that you can hire that will just fix that, or investors that you can bring to the table that will fix problems, or money won't solve. Like you need to figure out it and then have the teams back up to scale it on the side.
And you also probably want to build a culture of that and lead by example. You want people that are going to run to the fire or run to the problem and try to help.
Exactly. I think that's a great point. So if you're there, like in the field doing it, then like team will definitely see, okay, that's we need to be doing that like this. So yeah, leading by example is a big thing.
Fantastic. Andrios, where can people learn more about you and Hoop?
Yep. Just head over to Hoop.dev and there will be all the information, documentation. We have a free open source version. Feel free to try that. Let us know if you run into any problems. And if you need enterprise, reach out to our sales team.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrios. This has been fantastic. And I hope that people have both learned a lot from your story, as well as thought about how they can use Hoop.dev for their business to help make the people that have to do the copy and pasting hopefully a little bit less sad.
Yeah. Thank you, Sage, for having me.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us on Built Not Born, the podcast where we break down the real stories of startup execution. If you enjoyed this conversation with Andrios, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. And if you're a founder looking for guidance on scaling your startup, check out ventureguides.com. Thank you very much. Now let's get to work.
Let's do it.
Built Not Born, the startup go-to-market podcast, is brought to you by Venture Guides. To find out more about Venture Guides and how our venture capital plus guiding model helps early stage startups build scalable go-to-market strategies and grow faster, visit ventureguides.com. And then make sure to search for Built Not Born in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, or anywhere else that you listen. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and we look forward to building with you. On behalf of the team here at Venture Guides, thanks for listening. Until next time, keep building.